Okay, hello everyone. This is Ash from Launchpad. We're back for another artist support conversation. This time we're going to be chatting to Jed from Galaxians. So I am just going to wait now for Jed to join and then we'll get down to it. So anyone who might be watching this now or watching back later who doesn't know what Launchpad is, it is a artist and project support and development scheme based in Yorkshire, and we basically assist artists and projects with mentoring, live opportunities and funded recording and project support. So yeah, we're going to be delving into that a little bit more with Jed whenever he's here. This world of, oh there he is, this world of live streaming is definitely it's a new world. I think we are just joining now. Waiting for Galaxians. Hi, Jed. How are you doing?
All right, how are you?
I'm very good. You seem to have very calmly mastered this Instagram live scenario.
Well, yeah, when you're 100 years old like me, you've lived a long time and you can master things after having to have someone explain it to you.
Well,
Yeah,
I feel like I'm exactly like that with TikTok. So
yeah, well, yeah, only TikTok I know is the inevitable passage of time as a rocket towards my own death.
not to be morbid or anything, of course. Just
Next one.
positively realist.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So yeah, for anyone who's watching or watching this back later, this is Jed, and Jed, you are keys and synth and Galaxians, is that right?
Yeah, yeah, you are as well, aren't you? You're a keyboard player.
I am. We actually played a gig together last summer at Bungalows and
Oh
Bears.
yeah, I remember now. Yeah, that was really good. That it was
Yeah,
like crazy busy. It's like the opposite of now to think about. Just how busy that was. Like,
it's mad.
yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, it's really
Really,
good
really,
to go back to Bungalows and Bears ever since. Like I just thought it was a proper cool vibe. But yeah, it's the opposite of what is happening right now, isn't it?
yeah, kind of, yeah, a little bit. It's a bit depressing if you think about it, but I guess the alternative is worse. So,
Yeah,
yeah, this is.
I think it's best to
Oh,
not think too deeply about it, but think towards the future. But yeah, we're here today to talk about some of the different support and stuff that you've been offered through Launchpad and through other platforms. So I thought we could just start by talking about how Galaxians first started working with Launchpad, if you want to tell me a little bit about that.
yeah. So it were. It was basically this music leads scheme that Whiskers was involved with, and we kind of like got involved with that because we were kind of so when it comes to like funding for music, it's always really complicated. So it's been this sort of thing that we've never really sort of known like how on earth you're meant to be able to afford to do anything unless you're on a label or a major label, I should say, or a label with funds. Um, so we sort of tried to apply for, I guess, Momentum, which is this PRS funded project. And at that time, we weren't really at that level, and there was a kind of gap between what Momentum were doing, which was, I think, you had to have representation,
Yeah, you
or at least,
do.
yeah. So when Music Leads sort of came around, it was like a kind of tier in between. So it was more like what we were able to sort of say we could evidence that we'd done. So we'd done the various sort of live shows and sort of exposure that you might sort of need in order to sort of qualify for funding for that. And so yeah, so when this sort of came around, we had a few meetings with Whiskers and Scott from Clue Records, and yeah, we put the application together with their support, and that was the Do It Differently Fund, and I guess Launchpad is it's one of those things where, it just helps you springboard onto the next thing. If you're not kind of at that particular level, which it's really confusing business. And to be honest, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't actually understand, most of it at all. It's kind of very, very, very hard to get your head around because if you just want to play music and stuff, it's almost like you have to have an MBA, as some kind of like Excel genius, kind of quality. In just kind of like but what's kind of good with this is it's like you're more talking about what are you doing, what's your creative stuff that you do, and talk about that rather than evidence, receipts and finance and stuff. I'm just going on.
No,
Please stop me.
no, you've covered some really good points there, though. Yeah, as you said, like going for a fun like momentum, you really need to be at a certain point, and without any kind of intervention from professionals, it's like very unlikely people are even going to be able to think of themselves in the right way to get these funds. They're so competitive and they're so high, and not a lot exists at that intermediary level. And like I find like because Mamila are on Launchpad this year, but I find that before, I was looking at all these opportunities, like not momentum because I knew we weren't at that point, but I was looking at these opportunities and I was like, how can we get there? But then almost not thinking like, oh, but there's support for the level I'm at that will get me there. Like it's so good that there is something that will bring you to the next level, not just wait until you magically get to that next level.
Yeah, and that's what's really good. And I think what's quite nice as well is there's with people like Whiskers and everybody else that's involved with Do It Differently and Launchpad and Music Leads, is that there's a bit of a focus on like scenes that aren't in London, and I think that's good because who would have thought that there would have ever been a band that wasn't in London? By the way, you kind of hear about some of the ways the mainstream sort of funding is sort of thought about and talked about, and yeah, it's like it's such a refreshing thing to have people from where you're basically based, and and where you gig and where where you've basically come from as a band.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a big part of Launchpad. It's building up a network across Yorkshire because I think last year we were primarily working with Leeds-based artists, but then this year we opened our range to working with artists all across Yorkshire. And it's exactly
Yeah,
trying to take away this like centralized idea that you have to be in London and that everything is in London and trying to create an infrastructure where more people are able to grow and develop whilst living in Yorkshire or in the north of England. So yeah, no,
yeah,
it's good. It's very important and it's very healthy as well because there is so much good music up here.
yeah, yeah. In fact, it's like it's one of those things where it's really glad. I'm really glad that it's happening. But it is that sort of thing where I think because it's kind of a mysterious, to me anyway, it's a mysterious business, and it is kind of strange how one could become a successful band. That it's like if you kind of not. What am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say, without kind of picking on anyone or saying anything like derogatory about any band whatsoever. It sometimes feels like a popularity contest, and it's like if you just want to make music and you're not bothered about any of that, it's almost like it's kind of difficult to sort of understand why you need to sort of almost be something that you're not. I don't know. Like
Yeah, what you're saying, it feels like being in school sometimes. And you're like, I don't want
yeah,
to try and win someone's favor and do something that's not me. I just want to make my music. And I'm sure there are people out there who align with that goal.
mm.
And there
And I
are.
think it's that thing. Yeah, because we've been on a label, but it was kind of like a DIY label. We released some of our previous stuff, and they were based in New York. But with this latest one, we weren't on a label, and we put it out ourselves. And I think that's been, really good, because we've retained like complete control over the masters, and we've retained complete control over the distribution. And we've we've also had some insight with this process with Music Leads as to how that kind of like operates, and in a way how that's kind of better for bands and artists. But when doing this, you kind of miss out on a kind of whole bit of sort of what you might have the label work for you to plug your record, etc. So this funding's enabled us to, get a PR company to sort of help promote the record a bit before it came out, and also it's helped us do other things like, getting pressed, all the kind of like infrastructure that comes with, I guess, a label that you would normally have do for you.
Yeah, just to clarify as well, that was through the Help Musicians Do It Differently funding, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Which, just in case anyone's watching and thinking that Launchpad or Music Leads has like all of this money. No, we just helped you to get the Do It Differently funding, which has helped you to do this. Yeah. So
it was Launchpad, to clarify, because it gets complicated. Launchpad helped us with the Help Musicians Do It Differently fund.
Yeah.
And Launchpad's part of Music Leads.
Yeah, and I believe also you are one of the first artists that has been on a scheme with Launchpad that is still very much in its infancy, but it's called Launchpad Plus, which is where you've been getting some of this extra support with things like getting the advice on distribution and things like that. So I'm glad that you find it helpful, because as you say, you kind of then have creative control, you have a bit more understanding over the processes behind distribution and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. The distribution side of things obviously costs money, because you're talking about a physical product.
Yeah.
And getting that in the shops is still something we value quite a lot, because we like having a record to put out, and also digital distribution, which is obviously everyone listens to music online, Spotify or YouTube, whatever. So, but getting stuff on Spotify. I mean, we've had stuff on Spotify since 2014, but we didn't know how it was done. So having the actual insight into how you actually do it, and how that works, and the stuff to do with, you need to, in order to talk about your music in a certain way, in order to get funding from a source. So that kind of like support, like, it's just ongoing all the time. And I think as well, we've also had support with getting stuff on platforms like Centric. And Centric's like, so Centric's like a kind of, you're doing sync for TV, maybe like radio. So it's kind of like a sort of repository for music if people are looking for a certain thing. So that was really good. And
I find that advice on these things is so important, because things like Centric and PRS, it's like you do get paid for writing your music and having your music used, but if you're not registered to these bodies, maybe because you don't know about them, you're losing out on money that is kind of waiting for you.
Yeah, and I think particularly nowadays, if you kind of like looking to sort of make any kind of money out of music at all, it's the idea of what you might call, I'm going to hate myself for saying this, maximizing your revenue stream. So it's kind of like, essentially pimping your music out.
But you doesn't know the business side. That sounded very businessy.
It's basically kind of, but it's that thing where, to be honest, it's like, I don't know how many fractions of a 1p you get for a Spotify stream or whatever. But it's kind of like, in order to actually make music, money or an income or a little bit of something just to pay your costs back. So the best way of doing it is obviously doing a gig, which we can't do at the moment. And then it's kind of like the rest of it's from, like, I guess, radio play and royalties from other sources that will actually, I guess, pay you what you're worth.
Yeah, there was a PRS put out. I think it was today. It might have been today, but I think it was today. And like we got money in despite not having done anything because of things like radio play. So it is good to see it ticking over.
Yeah, I think so obviously stuff like that helps, but it's kind of understanding how to. What they've done is been able to provide the kind of support for us to be able to understand that, especially during these times where it's kind of everything that's a little bit different is going to be beneficial to like getting a bit of income in at this moment.
Yeah, and I think that is a really important thing, like having the tools to do things for yourself. And you hear it said so much now, like even people who are being signed to labels, they still need to show that they know these things and that they have these skills, knowledge. So it is really important. And it's very useful for artists to have this knowledge, and especially whenever you can get it by just applying to a scheme that is there to help you. I think it's a really undervalued thing, actually.
It's really cool that this exists. I mean, really, it should exist everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
really.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just that thing. When something just seems like obvious that should just exist.
Yeah.
And it's like, in America they talk about like, it's not the same, but universal healthcare. It's like, oh yeah, it's fine. And we've got it, and we kind of like take it for granted. But I think in parts of continental Europe, at least anyway, France, I think, is a good example of this. There's loads and loads of community arts centres that are like dotted around in towns and stuff, and they're just like really well funded, and like they can pay bands, and they've got really good sound systems, and they're like a proper community hub. And they're basically kind of like, we don't have that here because our sort of government doesn't value the arts really at all, unless you're doing ballet, in which case they'll get rid of the ad because they've just belatedly realised that they like going through. But if you play music and you're kind of basically not in London and you don't play, if you're not a multi-millionaire, then the government isn't interested in you anyway. But they're especially not interested in you musically because you don't speak for them. You're not politically them, and this is what we've got. So it's like, really, this scheme should exist. Of course, it should exist. Why would you not? It's like having a kind of job creation scheme. It's like, why would you not have a job creation scheme?
Yeah, and especially with, not to make it all political, but with, things that have happened between certain political figures and their views of the creative industries over the past few weeks and months, it's kind of especially important to be like, well, no, I'm going to take advantage of any opportunities that are available to me so that I can make my viable career even more viable. I think
because it is a viable career.
It is, yeah.
You're not just going to stop doing it, are you? Like, you just imagine that. Like, you just wake up, I'm just going to not make any music anymore. Just not going to bother. Just going to stop doing it. So you're not advert. I'm going to go. Just not going to do it. Like, I mean, we all have other jobs, obviously. I mean, it's not obvious, is it? I mean, a lot of people don't, but we all have other jobs. And we're quite lucky in a sense because, currently at least none of us are at risk. But I think it's kind of like there's something about the fact that this scheme exists, and it's kind of like, it's a golden opportunity in a kind of time and era when it's really weird time where like you're not really allowed to sort of do it, but at the same time, we're all trying to just make sense of this strange world, and I think it's something like this is kind of like a golden opportunity. So they've been really, really helpful, Wheels, and although we did get it all down before coronavirus happened, it were like, yeah, it would. In a way, that was just coincidence because they've been continuing to offer support since.
Yeah,
So
and that's lucky as well, like having had it there, so you had something to carry you through this strange period.
yeah.
Do you have anything else exciting coming up? Is there anything in the works?
Well, we've released the album,
Yeah,
and what
which is
we've got, because
by the way.
thanks. But because we've got well, we own the masters, like I think I've it's going on about this earlier. We've got the stems from the sessions, so we're doing some remixes with Ross, who produced the album, Ross Holden,
Nice.
and I think a few other contributors are like offering to do things as well. So we're aiming to put together a bit of a EP of remixes towards the beginning of next year, and then that'll be on vinyl and probably streaming. And then also we're going to have artwork designed for that, and also on a T-shirt. We're going to launch some. We did some T-shirts a few years ago, and we've pretty much run out of them. So we're going to get some more done. But an artist called Rosie Rackham, who's a graduate from Leeds Arts University, I think.
Nice.
She'd been doing stuff for his MAP charity.
Oh, you do the cool one with all the people like sat in the windows.
Yeah, it's like Greco-Roman sort of design style.
Yeah.
So they're really good designs, and they're like really sort of nice, sort of, I guess, it's kind of mysterious looking, and they're sort of
Did you do
intriguing.
your recent album artwork?
No, that was an artist called Luke Drozd
Okay.
who did that. Who did our previous one as well. He's really really good. He's done stuff for loads of people. He's Adam Buxton's autobiography and stuff like this. So he's been like, yeah, he's like he lives in Norway now, I think, but he's basically a kind of a friend of the band from years ago. I think Matt and a few other people knew him from 20 years ago as well. So he's been doing it before, but this new stuff's going to be a little bit different because it's a remix and stuff. So we were keen to do a little bit of a different design, and Rose's stuff sort of popped up, and it looked really good. And like, yeah, so hopefully it'll be. I mean, it's not what it looks like at the end of the day so much, but we like the sort of product. You know, when you have a nice product in your hand, a nice package. So yeah, because it's kind of limited, obviously, because of coronavirus, just suddenly shutting everything down, and hopefully coming back next year. But in the meantime, it's like something like that we've been able to afford to do because we've had funds come in from help musicians. Essentially, we had to sort of slightly change it because we were hoping to be able to fund other things as well. But if it weren't for Launchpad, we wouldn't have got help musicians at all. And I think this is the takeaway thing. It's like, if you're in a band, just apply.
Yeah, that's it.
So I could have just said that at the beginning, shouldn't I? Just said, oh yeah, just apply.
Yeah.
And then
just apply.
I would just say,
get funding,
just
and you're happy, wonderful.
Just apply.
Yeah, no,
just
it's
apply.
very true. I think that is like a good takeaway point, and like just keep working on stuff and just apply.
Just apply. There's kind of like, I don't know, it's not really difficult to kind of put together an application. I mean, we did it, and I'm pretty stupid, so we were able to kind of put together an application. You don't need to know loads and loads about the music industry or anything about it, because they give support. You don't need to know anything about money, really. You don't really need to know how it all works. It's that thing where you'll get taught about. Sorry, you'll get why can't I speak? You'll get sort of helped with, all of that, and it'll come through, and you'll be able to sort of put an application together.
Yeah, I think
And
the Launchpad is about like recognizing a lot of potential that is growing, not already
yeah,
established, or that is
yeah,
established growing to another level. So it is
yeah.
very much
Well, that was
about
it with us, actually. Interesting point there, because we're not a new band in Leeds, but we are a kind of, nationally, I guess you might want to, or whatever, new band, because we've not been to whatever this mysterious, mythical point of success is that Momentum classify
yeah,
as, we've heard of you type thing. And so we've been sort of playing for 8 years, and we were a two-piece for a long time, and then three-piece for about sort of 3 years now. No, more, 4 years maybe. And yeah, so we're not like a new band. So it's that thing where a little bit of guilt there from myself, because it's like, well, are we taking money away from people who are, got something to say that's like urgent, like, people of colour, LGBTQ people, sort of maybe you might want to call marginalised or ignored communities that have had a, shit deal. And are we taking money away and precious funds from that? And yeah, but I guess you can't think like that, because it's just an application at the end of the day. It's I'm just racked by crippling
no,
doubt all the time.
fair point. I think that is a very fair point, and I think that's why it is so important that so many people apply for schemes like Launchpad, because we can,
Yeah,
people like, as you say, like people of color and people of marginalized genders and women and LGBTQIA plus are underrepresented, and doing schemes like this, such as Launchpad, are going to help get you into a place where you can change that, and that is very
yeah,
important. So
absolutely. I think especially what's good about Launchpad is they know the area, they know Leeds and the surrounding areas, they know West Yorkshire and Yorkshire, and they can help you with that application. It's not going to be judged by someone from afar, in terms of
yeah,
who you are. It's like the team will work with you to put together something, and
totally.
it's like I say, it should just exist everywhere, really.
Yeah,
But it's a great opportunity for people that should totally go for it.
I agree. And on that note, we do not know an exact date for when the next applications are going to open, but it is going to be early in 2020. And until then, we are going to continue posting opportunities and funding and similar things like that that are helpful for artist development on our socials, and continuing doing conversations such as this one, just to kind of demystify the process a little bit. So, do you have any parting wisdom or anything you want to shout out, Jed?
Well done, and thanks a lot to everyone who has helped our band, from Music Leeds and from Launchpad, and everyone from the Do It Differently Fund, because without them we wouldn't have been able to really do our album that we've kind of been working on for a couple of years. Also, should probably point out as well, there's loads and loads of music out there that is essentially, so much music, and it's something like this is a golden opportunity for anyone just to apply. And if you apply, then you'll get support and help, and if you get through and stuff. But you won't know unless you give it a go. I'm always nervous about applying for things. I'm quite a nervous person. I don't really like the limelight. That's why I was kind of like backup of the backup to talk today. And as you can tell, I'm amazingly prepared. But like basically, it's please apply, because everyone should be able to hear your music, and it's not fair that people can't hear it. If I'm not talking about Galaxians here, I'm just saying whoever it is, you might be like a bedroom rapper or producer of some kind, just apply. doesn't take very long. Just give it an apply, and let's have some proper music out there rather than Ed Sheeran ripping off Marvin Gaye again. Come on, you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. I know, we're done with it. We're sick of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and likewise, if anyone wants to apply and is struggling with the application, reach out to us. We'll help.
Absolutely. And everyone's been really amazing and helped us a lot. That's what I would just say, is that the support is there, and try and ignore my face, just listen to my words, because I'm I don't like looking at them.
Well, I think
just
as the self-described backup of the backups, you've done a more than good job of this. So I think we are look at your face and listen to your words.
Is there any hiding it on this thing? Oh no, it's just really weird. Don't do anything. Has that ruined it?
No.
This is not doing it.
Oh, it's done it now. Oh, cute.
This is just weird. I should have just had this on.
No, it would have taken away from your words.
What is this? Oh yeah. I could just maybe just sat right in. Oh, that would have been nice. I think we'd all like this John Malkovich style one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Ed,
thank you for joining me today.
Thanks a lot for having us on. And next time, I promise we'll get a proper band member on who knows what they're talking about.
Well, everyone knows the keys players are the best.
I guess so. I guess so.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye.
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 Bye.